and I'm probably gonna change this format soon. I don't have the details yet. I'm still thinking about it. Maybe you guys will provide some input, but first I'm gonna be adding locals to the live stream. So I'll be the plan is to add locals, and then at some point I'm thinking about actually moving just the live stream to locals, or maybe locals and Rumble. And not I'm not 100% on that yet. I'm just thinking about the pluses and minuses, but it's something that I'm considering. And the other thing that I'm thinking about is maybe change the format of the live stream a little bit, and maybe even the purpose, maybe become more instructional, like we are going to be in this topic here, where we actually delve into a little bit more of the detail of how to do things, which is something that often cannot be done on the short videos. Anyway, let's get into the topic, and the topic is the anti-malware strategies that I was talking about just in general terms in the last video on antivirus. As I told you, I do not want you to use an antivirus, at least not for your home system. If you're using a computer given to you by your employer, you'll be forced to use an antivirus, in which case you're forced. There's nothing you can do about it. So, but don't put it on your home system. Don't assume that just because your corporate system may require it, that that's somehow beneficial to you personally, because it's not going to be beneficial. By the way, I see there's people also on Rumble. Welcome, Rumble people. No, nobody's making a comment yet, but I can see there's many people on Rumble right now and on YouTube. So anyway, you've seen the ad, so hopefully now you can pay attention to what I'm saying. Um, the the issue is, if you're not going to use an antivirus, then what are the strategies for protecting yourself against malware, or in some cases, how do you recover from malware? And I just made some general comments in the video, but nothing specific. I made some statements in the comments, but maybe not clear enough for many of you. So let's discuss some situations where you could be at risk for malware. So certain jobs require a lot of email attachments. So it is true that although I personally don't download attachments, and if somebody sends me, first of all, hardly anybody sends me email, and and those that do typically have a reason to send something, either as a customer or something specific, because I asked for it and they're giving it because I triggered the request. For example, if I said, send me proof of purchase, then of course I'm going to expect an attachment for proof of purchase. But unsolicited attachments are a big no-no. So if somebody just generally sends me mail and there's an attachment, then I'm going to be truly worried. The problem is there are some people's jobs that almost always gets attachments. And so now you're at risk of getting a virus because you don't know who people are sending you stuff. There's also many cases of advertisers, and I don't mean authentic advertisers, but some are like some bad ones, trying to trick you with phishing attacks. And they're actually doing things to make you click on things, and then causing it to trigger a download. You can actually do this, and I've written some scripts to create the situation where you go to a web page and you don't even know it, and it's going to download something. Okay, so I can do that. So I know it can be done because I've done it. I think I made an example in some old video on how to do that, and it did download the file. The problem is that Windows will stop the file from being downloaded if it's an exe or maybe an Office file. It won't let you do that. You have to zip it up in order for it to be downloaded. And maybe it is zipped up. The thing is that if you can download any file, even a zip file, and you trick somebody into renaming it, which can be done. You can download you can do a two-step process here where somebody calls you to download without you knowing, and then somebody gives you something authentic to run, and the authentic stuff to run has a side thing, which is to look for the file to rename. I'll give you an example of an attack that I could do. Okay, there's something that I thought about. If I wanted to do an attack, how would I do it? Well, let's say that there's a program that you might want to download. Let's say it's okay. Let's use something basic like WinZip. Okay, so you want to use WinZip because you want to unzip a file, and the most popular one is called WinZip. And typically, you download WinZip, and it gives you a free trial, and then it asks you to pay for it. Okay, so whoever the latest owners of WinZip wants to make money. Now, what if I repackaged WinZip and put a little code in there that says if you find a file named Braxme on your computer download folder, like braxme.txt or maybe braxme.zip or something that's allowed, a name that's allowed in the system. The installer for this thing that I had you download, like the WinZip program, the installer for WinZip, a fake installer, which will actually install a real WinZip because you copy WinZip in the internet and package it with a different installer, put the malware in the installer, and then look for a file called braxme.zip to rename it to braxme.exe. Can you do that? Oh, yes. Oh, yes, you can do that. Oh, yes, you can do that. Now, you see, these are two unrelated events. I can cause a download to occur on your computer without clicks. Easy. On any browser. Very easy to do. Okay? So, I've done that, like I said, many times. So, and I was like wondering, well, how do I rename the file? Because, Windows blocks files from being named exe. And no antivirus is gonna stop this, by the way. No antivirus is gonna stop what I'm talking about because there's nothing to stop this. So you go to some website, and innocuous website, it downloads a file without you knowing. It doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't give you a message. It just puts it in your download folder. Can it do that? Yes, absolutely. Is this a 0-day? Don't know if you can. I guess it's kind of a 0-day because I've tested this, and I think it's a problem, but nobody. Meaning, why allow download without any kind of confirmation? And yes, you can do that. You can do a download without confirmation. And then a second program can rename the file into the actual deadly version, which is to rename it to exe. And then that program could run it. So now you have two separate steps, and the second step can install the malware. So you can see how you can be tricked in doing this. And it's, and again, the second program could be completely innocuous. It could be completely legit sounding, like, you need to do you need a copy of WinZip to unzip that file I just sent you? And then you send some photo file or something, and then the guy says yes, and then clicks on it, downloads the installer, installs it, but actually the installer does many things. So in a case like that, somebody could execute anything on your computer. Okay, now, as you can see, somebody like me would know about stuff like this, and I'd be wary about somebody sending me anything, or even a link to an installer of a program. I would be very wary. I wouldn't just take it. But let's say the person that sends it to you is a trusted name, you think. Because anyone can fake their name. They could say that I'm Rob and I'm sending you this file, and go install it because it's good for you. And you might believe it because my name might be on there, and you might think that's legit. So that's called social engineering. So yes, it is possible to load a virus unintentionally on your computer, and in which case then you once you don't have a strategy for handling stuff like this, then it's going to be deadly. So what's some of the ways to mitigate this? Because you can mitigate this. If you do a lot of attachments or you receive a lot of attachments and you want to be safe, two things I would do. One is to be able to restore your computer to a pre-virus state if you got infected already. And I mentioned Clonezilla in a prior video, and I'll get into that again. But the other thing that you might want to do, and this is something that you might consider if you're a heavy receiver of attachments, and there's a likelihood that you have to screen attachments and you don't know how to judge if an attachment is real or not, then you might want to insulate yourself by loading your email into a virtual machine. Not everything you do has to be in the virtual machine. Not all apps you run need to be on the virtual machine, just certain things. And the most important thing probably to put into a virtual machine is email. So it could be just a virtual machine for email. And what will happen is, even if you go to a website with no click downloads like I described to you, but you never get to the software that will actually trigger it to be renamed to something deadly, then it's not going to do anything. It's just going to sit in your downloads folder, kind of a static kind of file, because you'll never encounter a program that will actually run it. So the way I would do this is install a virtual machine on. You can install a virtual machine on any OS. You can do it on Linux. You can do it on Mac OS. You can do it on Windows. But make the virtual machine something really simple. Put Linux on there and run only email, just email. And then it won't be slow then, because you're going to open it up. You're going to maybe rename the virtual machine email, and maybe it pre-launches the program. And so that when you look at it, one click and then it launches it. Now, is this hard to do? No, it's not hard. So what do you need to do? Well, since it's not a performance kind of virtual machine, it could be just doing something normal stuff, even low speed functionality, because all it's going to do is run your email, and maybe your email is even on webmail, so you just need a browser, so you don't even need anything. You don't need to install anything. You just run the browser in the virtual machine. But what happens is, if you run your email in the virtual machine and you have an attachment and you happen to download it, you're going to only potentially infect the virtual machine, potentially. In the case where I told you, where two steps, so the hacker gives you a website, maybe through some link that you didn't understand, and you went to it, and you went to the website, and there's a hack on that website, because you can actually hack existing websites to do this. This is actually quite easy to do. And somebody can be looking at a website they think is the authentic website, but it's actually covered with something else, and that cover website can actually be a hidden page with the no-click download in the background. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but basically, if you're browsing the internet, there's a high possibility that you might encounter a website that is not the real website, and there's a malware in the background that you cannot see, and it will cause a no-click download. Okay, I told you I've done this. This is nothing. The thing about me is I do know how to hack. So I'm not just talking in a theoretical way here. There's stuff I know how to do. So if you go to a website and you think it's the authentic website, but it actually causes a no-click download into your downloads folder, the trigger could be an attachment on an email. However, if your email is in a different system in the virtual machine, the two won't interact. So you're on the virtual machine and you do a download of an attachment, and the attachment actually is something dangerous, like I told you, like it triggers malware that it finds pre-downloaded on your computer, it's not going to work because they're in separate areas. One is in the virtual machine, one is in your regular download folder. So that makes it a lot safer. So if you are a type of person that likes to click on attachments, you're not like me, you don't have my kind of discipline, then you really could use the system that I just described, which is to separate the email into the virtual machine. And again, it can be webmail. It doesn't have to be embedded in the main system. Now, here's the other thing that it can do, and this is actually interesting thing here. If you run a virtual machine with email on it, let's say you're using Gmail, your Gmail login will not interfere with anything you do on the browser on the main host. That's not on the virtual machine. So your host machine, let's say, is running Mac OS, let's say. So you're running Mac OS and your virtual machine has the email. It's not going to reveal the Google ID on the Mac OS. So this is actually kind of like a browser isolation strategy as well. Is this hard to do? Not. So let me just tell you how easy this is to do. You download the virtual machine software, which is, I have a video on it. I have many virtual machine videos. So you can just follow some of those. And there's some for Linux, KVM, and there's VirtualBox for Windows and Mac. So the one that's easy to use is called VirtualBox. So it's made by Oracle. You can download it, and then it's very easy to install Linux on a VirtualBox machine. The reason that most people do not use VirtualBox is that it's slower. But for this purpose, it doesn't matter. Simplicity is more important here because it's going to be simple. You're just going to use it for email. So if again, does everybody have to do this? No. It's a strategy for certain types of people that can't help themselves. You can't help yourself. You just like to click. I mean, you don't have that discipline. I have the discipline, so I don't really need this strategy. You'll be hard pressed to get me to click anything. And here's the thing that I do. This is kind of a second level here. How do I know if the attachment is legit if I sometimes have to click on it? Sometimes. I told you I don't take unsolicited attachments. If somebody gives me an attachment, it must be because I know you're sending me an attachment and I expected it. But if I get some random email from somebody, this is a strategy that I always use because there's so many scams, and that is you got to learn how to use view source, meaning in Thunderbird it's called view source, but what it is you're looking at the headers, the email headers. You got to know how to interpret email headers because there's a lot of information there. So I'll give you an example. Somebody sent an email to me today from some unknown domain. It's not one of my domains, but the message just says, "I'm just testing email," and then to Rob Braxman, okay, to my email address. I'm just testing email. First of all, the email address used is not the one I give to the public, so therefore, that alone triggers me that this has to be fake. Because it's not the one I send out. It's not the one I post everywhere as my email. So that automatically tells me it's not a legit source, which is why you should consider using Braxmail, because this is the kind of thing you can do in Braxmail, which I'll tell you about later, how you would do this. So I go to Thunderbird. Thunderbird has a very easy tool to look at the header. Because if you look at the email on Thunderbird, there's the option on the email when you're viewing it. The option is view source. And if you look at that, it shows all the header information, including the IP addresses that sent it, what machine forwarded it, where did it come from, what's the MTA or message transfer agent server, was it webmail, was it from an email client, and so on. So now I was looking at this domain, and the email was sent by a domain that actually wasn't sent by any domain. It was sent by an IP address that is not the same domain as the sender. That alone is a suspicious thing. When the server name is unidentified, the sending server name is unidentified, and it's not the same domain as the server, and it's not one of the usual big name, because sometimes people will use AWS like I do. So the domain could be AWS, which is fine because they sell SMTP services to me. So sometimes you use somebody else's server, but this one was unidentified. And here's the real clue to me that it was definitely a scam. If I replied to it, I would be scammed to death. Okay, and the way I noticed this is it said relay SMTP. Relay. You ought to always worry about something called relay, because that is how spammers use systems. They basically take over let's say you manage your own email server, you don't know how to do it, it's going to be used for relay. Okay, and then you're going to be blacklisted because a lot of spam is going to come from that. So somebody sent the spammy email through a relay of somebody's server, probably some guy running a home server, and that gave me the clue that obviously this is fake right there, because he couldn't even use a real domain for the server. I mean, email servers should have a domain, and it should have all the other identifiers that say it's a real domain, like DKIM and so on. There's some identifiers on there that in the header that tell you it's legit. And so that's a problem. So I immediately spotted that was an issue. Here's another one. Somebody sends you an email from the bank, and it says, on the header it says, so let's say alerts at bankamerica.com. Let's say that's the email. And it said reply to, bankamerica.com. Or typically let's say from bankamerica.com. But reply to will be different. It'll be like, as an example, bankamerica.com .tpi, some different domain, .com. So bankAmerica.com.tpi.com. Well, you can forget the bankAmerica.com at the beginning. That's irrelevant. Just look at the last two things on the address, and if that's the real domain, the last two. Everything else is nonsense. It's just a trick. Only the last two count. So tpi.com in this example. So if it says tpi.com, then this is not Zucking Bank of America. It doesn't matter if they say Bank of America at the beginning. If it doesn't say Bank of America at the end, it's not authentic, because you have to go to that website, look at the certificate, and see that it's a valid domain. If it doesn't say Bank of America there, then it's not valid. So when you look at it, it says the message is from Bank of America, but anyone can stick any from address. Maybe you don't know this, but in email you can stick anything in from. But the reply to, because they're going to do a phishing attack, they need you to reply someplace else. So then you reply, and the reply will not go to Bank of America. It will go to the real IP, the real address that they want. So this is a example of all the different tricks. Another thing that you ought to look at is the IP address and the domains of all the servers it's listed in the header, to see where it's coming from, who it's sending to. If you're suspicious about something, always check to see if the domains make sense. If it goes to domains that don't make sense, then it's probably false. Here's an example where the domain could be correct. a domain is, let's say, cosmicrose.com, and then you look at the MTA, or the actual SMTP server that sent it, and it says outlook.com. That's legit. That's because there are many. It's actually part of like Microsoft Exchange that handles email. So many businesses will do that. They'll have their domain, but they're using Outlook to do the mailing through SMTP. So as long as the sending server is valid, somebody known like Outlook, Gmail, even if the domain isn't original, the SMTP server is really what's the one doing the sending. So anyway, that's just a strategy for, if you really can't resist, clicking on things, you need to look at that. Now let me tell you about another trick that many of you don't realize, and this is one of the reasons why I always recommend that you use a safe email client or webmail. Webmail is pretty safe. So if you use webmail, then you're going to be okay. But if you don't, not okay, but okay to outsiders. You may not be okay to whoever's doing the webmail. Your IP address is in the email. If you're looking at it closely, even in webmail, it will actually show the IP address, and many times the IP address will be an IPv6. So it may not be as revealing because your IPv6 address is very long and you may not recognize it. But it's in many emails, which means your emails can be identified. If I sorted emails by IP address, then I would find out every email you've ever sent. So if I'm Gmail and I'm capturing all the emails and I can just sort, your emails by IP address, I'll know who you are. Even if you use different IP addresses. Even if you use different email addresses. Okay, this is the danger with many email products. Now, here's the problem I want to discuss with you. There's something called a beacon attack. Again, something I've demonstrated and tested and showed you long ago. I haven't done it recently. But what it is somebody sends you an email with HTML on it with a hidden pixel. Meaning it shows you, it actually displays a blank image, let's say a 1 pixel ping file. Because it's 1 pixel and the background of the pixel, the single pixel is transparent, you'll never see it. There's nothing that will ever display on the screen. Well, what I've found that most email clients, with the exception of Thunderbird and K9, will display the HTML and actually trigger it on the website where that ping file comes from. So if I'm sending you email without you even acknowledging or opening the email, I can get your IP address. And if I can get your IP address and you're not running a VPN, then of course you're going to be zucked. So again, I can identify you and I can get your location and so on simply from that IP address, assuming there's some other mistakes you made that made your IP address show up in IP address lookup tables, private ones. Many people don't understand this concept because they don't really understand IP addresses. But if that ever happens, then you will not even know that the attacker can not only read your emails and see your IP address, but actually send you a unsolicited message, even spam, and the spam will trigger your client, because you're not using Thunderbird, to reveal your IP address. Solution is, don't use just any email client. If you're going to use an email client, use Thunderbird or K9 on the phone. Don't use anything else. I found Microsoft, Outlook, Mac Mail, Apple Mail, all of that, they're all tainted. They all, to give you speed, they actually are dangerous because they will actually trigger these beacons. So, okay. So anyway, I'm going to continue in a moment, but before that, let me just take a a sponsor break. So I just want to talk to you about my sponsor, and that is Akamai Linode. And I told you that just some fantastic news about them expanding. They promised at the beginning of the year that they would expand and open up new data centers, and they actually did. So they opened up many more data. They actually doubled the data centers in the U.S. They opened up more data centers in Europe, and they opened up more in Asia, and I believe they just opened up Brazil. Now, I don't have a server yet in Brazil. I don't think I have any clients in Brazil at the moment, but I may open up a server for South America and put it in Brazil. So that's kind of the thing that happens when you see the benefits of what Linode has done for me, because it expanded. So they've gotten even more powerful with their new data centers, and which means if you're close to a data center, then your performance is faster. So that's the more data centers, and the faster your systems go if you're trying to access remote cloud. So again, another benefit to Linode, I already told you, Linode is actually one of the best priced cloud providers out there. I mean, hands down will underprice AWS, GoDaddy, all of them, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. Microsoft Azure is the most expensive. So if you are thinking about, if you have a company or want to put a website and you're saying, where do I put this? What server? Where do I get servers? I do recommend that you consider Linode. Now, if you go to Linode and use the code linode.com/Rob Braxman, they're going to give you a $100 credit, and then you can apply that to anything you purchase on Linode within the next 2 months. So keep an eye on that. That's a good thing to know about. Okay, so some of you were. So let me look at your comments now. Some of you were making comments on the video about, oh well, I always use an antivirus, so I'm going to keep using one. I mean, I guess if you ask me, last year or the year before, which is when I made a video a couple of years ago about an antivirus, I would have, I would not get too concerned if you say, well, I don't care about what you say, I'm going to use an antivirus. I will continue to use an antivirus. Well, I would say, you want to waste your money? I don't care. I mean, do whatever you want. If that makes you feel happy, go do it. It's not going to make you any safer. In some ways, it's going to make you unsafe. If you are a target of a more serious attack, the antivirus will actually make you unsafe. But for a standard person, it's probably at the time not a big deal. Well, the idea of the man in the middle, it really bothers me. And the reason it bothers me in a big way, this is really the justification for avoiding a antivirus at all costs, is that you have to assume that it has become a spy machine. And somebody would say, well, you don't have any proof. Okay, now, again, I'm going to re-explain what I just said in 2 videos now, or 3 videos, however many videos I've talked about this, because I've hinted at it in the first video, was explicit with it in the second video, and then here again, hinting it again in this antivirus video. But I was hinting at the man in the middle. Now, as I told you, there is a push for man in the middle to defeat end-to-end encryption. Governments want to do this. And I told you that somebody wants to do something like this, how they would do it. So I made a video on how they would do an MITM or man-in-the-middle attack on people to beat end-to-end encryption. And I came up with several ways of if I were the programmer and I'd say, okay, I want to spy on people's systems, how would I do it? Okay, well, actually, how I would do it is to use the antivirus. And that's a danger, because if I'm saying that antivirus is the easiest way to spy on you, that's the thing with me. If as a programmer, I'm telling you the easiest way to spy on you is through the antivirus, it means somebody. I don't make these kinds of comments lightly. If I said that, that means somebody already figured it out. Okay? Because it came to me as I was just analyzing this problem of end-to-end encryption. So if I were going to do it, how would I do it? That was, not very many people watched that video, by the way, and you should. It was from, 2 weeks ago, where I theorized how I would break encryption with a client-side scanning if I wanted to, how I would do that. And I said specifically that I would do it through the antivirus, especially with Microsoft Windows Defender. And some people say, well, I can't remove Microsoft Windows Defender, so I'll just leave it running, and on and on and on. But in actuality, the most likely source of government-initiated client-side scanning will likely be through Microsoft. And likely it will be something that's built into the OS. And if what's built into the OS? Well, Windows Defender. So, and I explained this in the video, but sometimes it's not clear, and you have to re-explain it again. But I'm telling you the problem here. The problem is that an antivirus already does client-side scanning. That is what an antivirus does. What do you think an antivirus does? Scans your files. It's already a client-side scanner. So maybe this is not clear in the video, but this is what happens. The antivirus company puts a list out of things to look for, and then the antivirus that's in your system then executes and looks for it, and then alerts you, in theory, or maybe not, and alerts the antivirus company. And, as proven by Kaspersky, sends the file over. I mean, my goodness. If that isn't a client-side scanning attack with manipulating your content and taking your content and moving it someplace else, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you. So let me just tell you exactly what Kaspersky found. I didn't explain it in detail because I said it in other videos, but let me just say it again. Kaspersky found viruses created by the three-letter agency that begins with Zucking IA. That begins with Zucking. So the Zucking IA created the virus, and Kaspersky found it and forwarded it to Russia. Now, how funny is that? How funny is that? So thank you. How to hard reset Brax2 phone. The instruction is an FAQ on the web on Brax.me. It's there. Just follow the instructions on there. So anyway, the Kaspersky located a file randomly and said, this is suspicious, sends it over to Russia. Okay? And Kaspersky said, well, it has the profile of a virus, so therefore we're going to download it so we can inspect it. But that should already warn you that you don't really know what the antivirus is going to send over. It could be anything. In this case, it sent something that was really dangerous, which is secret malware created by our government to be used against others, including us. So they put it, so this virus was actually loaded up on, in this case, government computers, and the government computers, which had the Zucking IA virus, forwarded the virus over to Kaspersky. Now, I don't know, you don't think that's funny? I mean, that's pretty funny to me, but that is actually the behavior of client-side scanning. So if they can do that, why not stretch it a little bit? Why? And by the way, if you think that Kaspersky is the main culprit here, I would say no. I would probably I might trust Kaspersky more if I were really into an antivirus, because because obviously it found something that is of benefit to the user. But it doesn't tell you what any antivirus can send, meaning they can send anything. It was just discovered that they sent the Zucking IA malware to Russia, but it could have sent any file. It could have sent any document containing any kind of secret, any kind of, let's say that, you work for some, skunk works, and you're building some sort of secret stealth aircraft, and then you send out an email and you're running an antivirus, and the antivirus detects certain words and forwards that data somewhere else. Maybe it forwards it to China so they can copy the skunks work, whatever. Could it be done? Yes, of course it can be done. This is the worrisome thing, is you don't know. And I'm just telling you that the antivirus is actually the easiest way to do a lot of this stuff. So it's not just that the antivirus itself is useless. I've already told you the antivirus is useless, but this man-in-the-middle concept is something that many people who responded to my video didn't even understand what I was trying to get at. Again, because they didn't watch the prior video. And again, to repeat it, if I were to build a surveillance system to scan for content on people's devices that could beat encryption, how would I do it? And I told you that the secret way I would do it is to use the antivirus, because that's the easiest way. And which antivirus would be the easiest one to build this in? Well, I would start with Windows Defender. and then Good Soul says, it's Microsoft Windows Defender enough? That's exactly my point. That is the best spot for client-side scanning. If I want to scan your computer, I'm going to use Windows Defender. So you still want to use Windows Defender? You still want to use Windows Defender? So no, Zuck, no, you do not need any Zucking antivirus. Please listen to me. Not just because the antivirus is useless, but there are new dangers from client-side scanning. And again, they could put it in the OS someplace else. Maybe because of this video, they'll say, oh, maybe we should move it someplace else. We know that a antivirus already scanning files. That's what an antivirus does, scans files. So if it's already scanning for content, then we can use it to take content from anyone with secret instructions. How much effort would that take to build secret instructions that can be understood by the antivirus to do things to your computer as a remote controlled bot that can pick out any data anywhere? It'd be the easiest thing to do. What about the other components of Windows Defender? Didn't I just tell you not to use Windows Defender? So, So one of the safer things I thought about Windows Defender, because Windows Defender does not operate in memory, it's really just a file scanner. So it's kind of a limited thing. Windows Defender is more limited compared to, let's say, Norton. So, which is probably the most, for me, is the most mistrust, the company I would mistrust the most would be Norton. Non-trustworthy company because of their roots in the original Symantec, and they're the ones who did fake certificates and scanned the entire internet with a fake certificate so they can read all of our secure content, and they did that to sell spy surveillance systems in multiple countries. So it's very untrustworthy company. Now they're all split up now, so they can say, well, we're different now. And I said, fuck you. I don't know if you're actually different. You're the same people. So, yeah. So if I were in the Zucking IA, and I wanted to find flaws in an antivirus, and they did. Let me tell you the story, which is kind of interesting. Okay, so I don't know if you all remember this, but many years ago, there was a WikiLeaks release where the WikiLeaks released data that some whistleblower showed about what the Zucking IA was doing to us. Okay, this is the Zucking IA. The Zucking IA is supposed to be doing things only to foreign parties. And yet, this document showed that they were doing things to anyone's system, to everyone. They were doing global malware being loaded anywhere. And as you know, the Kaspersky thing was found in the US, on US systems. This was created by the Zucking IA that's supposed to not be interfering in the US. They're supposed to be only to be doing things abroad. Okay, this is how zucked up all this whole thing is. Okay, now, so the Zucking IA had a document, which is what I used to make the antivirus video from a couple of years ago. And what the data showed was they showed flaws in every one of these antivirus companies. They said there's a flaw in this antivirus, and they basically showed how you can break into an antivirus and actually cause havoc if you're running the antivirus. Meaning, if you're running the antivirus, it's worse. This is from the Zucking IA. This is what triggered me to report this to you, okay? Because I understand the technology and so on. Now, what is interesting there is this document, the document that came from the Zucking IA, with all the discussions there of the different antivirus, did not mention any flaw at all on Norton. None. Why would the Zucking IA not mention any Zucking flaw in Norton? Why is that? Now, some of you are, think I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I look for clues like this, and these are important clues. Why would the Zucking IA say these are the flaws in each of this antiviruses, but not mention Norton? Now, let me just tell you something else. At the time that they released a document showing all the flaws in antivirus, it was well known in the cybersecurity circle that there was a flaw, a very serious one, in Norton. It had to do with the sandbox, which I discussed in the video generally. But it was in my old video. So what happened was that Norton use of the sandbox was found and was discussed in the Security Now channel back then. Was that the sandbox had kernel rights, and so once you break into the antivirus, you can actually access the kernel and take over the computer. Okay, meaning it's a pretty serious problem, very, very serious, and was badly designed because the sandbox got kernel access. Okay, it's a bad design. Not mentioned at all in the CIA document. So in the CIA document, it said, oh, there's a flaws in Kaspersky and Avast, AVG, and on and on, Clam AV, all of that. They say, oh, look at all the flaws in all this. No mention of Norton, when Norton was the one with the publicized flaw. Now, all of these other ones had sandboxes too, but the publicized flaw was from Norton. Now, I look at those as a clue, and I say, why was Norton not mentioned? And my guess is, and this is a reasonable guess, is that they're working with the Zucking IA. Okay, it's just a guess. Just a guess. But it wouldn't surprise me. Therefore, is it possible that there's a man in the middle right now in Norton because of their association with the Zucking IA? And remember, in case you didn't know, Norton was part of Symantec. Symantec was part of Blue Coat Systems. Blue Coat Systems was doing the mass surveillance in various countries with the fake certificates. They were into the surveillance business. Okay? So would it be surprising then, because of the connections with governments, that Norton itself could have had a contract with the government to say, hey, can you do some client-side scanning for us? Can you do all this and put in? Again, just suppositions, and you can call me a conspiracy theorist or whatever you want to call me, but it's a good question to ask because, if it quacks like a duck, you ought to wonder, does it quack like a duck? If it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. Okay, so just telling you. So which ones would I trust? Would I trust Kaspersky over Norton and Windows Defender? Probably. However, they're probably all bad. They're probably all bad. I mean, some may work for the East, some may work for the West. I mean, they could all have different elements of surveillance built into all of them. We don't need any of this. Don't tell me that such and such a AV is safe. Don't say that. No. There are no good ones. Stop thinking about antivirus. Just stop. You don't need it. It doesn't help you. It just adds more risks. There is no need for zucking antivirus. Just follow my procedures on what to do. You do not need any kind of antivirus. No antivirus. Okay? So, my goodness, I mean, I've been repeating that, and then people are still saying, it's Clam AV, and, what about this and that? What about Bit this and that? Bit Defender, it's like, am I giving you exceptions? No zucking exceptions. Stop using an antivirus. It doesn't do anything for you. Use proper procedures. If you want to, have unlimited abilities to do things, even if you click every download because you can't follow simple rules like don't click on an attachment, then zucking load a virtual machine. That'll protect you for sure. If you're that kind of person. If you're the right kind of person that actually listens to advice on not to click, then you don't need much of anything. Just don't zuck and click. So Linux prevents, so let's say, let me talk about that attack that I just mentioned earlier, J.K. Brawley 5. Okay, so the attack I described earlier is you go to a website and it does a no-click download. Can you do that on Linux? Yes. So I believe I tested it out on Linux. So because it's really the browser doing it. It's nothing to do with the OS. It's a browser fault. And I tested it on Chrome and it does it. You can download without a click. So it downloads the file, puts it in the downloads folder. Now, I told you the second step is something has to rename that file. So you need two pieces of malware here. One has to rename that file in order for it to be executable. Because that's how you do it in Windows. If you rename the file, you can execute it. But in Linux, that doesn't work. In Linux, you can't just rename the file. In Linux, you have to be sudo. You have to be the root user, and then you have to manually give execute rights to the file. And for this reason, that's a lot harder to do with Linux. So that's more steps. So because of that, this kinds of common attacks that I'm describing is harder to do on Linux. Therefore, it is not likely to succeed in Linux. It would take too many steps. It would be too obvious, especially on the command line. So I would say that Linux will automatically make you safer. I can't imagine why you would need any kind of antivirus in Linux anyway, or even Mac OS. So the only people that are fond of using an antivirus are the ones on Windows. And even on Windows, I'm saying, no, you don't need it. You don't need it. So, for example, in Windows, you can, just to give you an example, because Peter mentions you can embed sudo commands. Well, that's a that's a different kind of attack. But this is something you can actually do. You can actually download a file with a lot of malware instructions on it as a text file. So it could be a text file. So you download a text file, no click. The browser is not going to find a problem downloading a text file with no click because it's just a text file. You can actually put it automatically in the in your browser cache because it's just for example, if the file is called HTML, then it'll download to your browser cache. So now it's on the computer. Could that be turned into something else? Yes, because what can happen is the HTML can contain commands for command line, meaning it just needs to be renamed to a BAT file, a Windows batch file, BAT. So if I can insert a bunch of commands, and by the way, one of the commands I can insert in a batch file is to load Meterpreter to take over your computer. So what happens is I can use curl, I download Meterpreter from whatever, put it in memory, and then suddenly I have remote control. Then I can start controlling your computer. Okay, can you do that? Yes. All I had to do is rename the file to BAT, B-A-T, this is in Windows, and have somebody click on it. If the name is so innocuous, you might click on it by accident, and then it loads Meterpreter, and then there you are. You're zucked. Okay, so yeah, that can be done. That's not doable in Linux easily, because in Linux it's going to have to be a bash file with a sh extension. You got to give it, even if it's sh extension, it's not going to execute. You have to give it execute rights, chmod plus x to the sh file. There's a lot of steps, and then you got to use sudo. If you use sudo, then you're going to be obvious, because they're somebody's going to ask, why am I typing a sudo command here? That's So anyway, that's just an example of how it can be a problem to execute a script. So even if you are able to download a bash script through some other method in Linux, it won't execute until you manually give it the permission change to execute the plus x, change mod plus x. Yeah, so on Linux, yeah, it's not likely to happen on Linux. Just too many extra steps in there. Plus, it will ask you for your password. So it's going to be too obvious. It's going to ask for your root password, which should be, should scare you. If somebody you're running your Linux, you download a file, and then suddenly it's asked for root password. Come on. That's pretty worrisome. So, so obviously in Linux, that's why it's by design. It's harder to put that kind of malware on Linux. You can put other kinds of malware on Linux, but not that kind. So, which is the most common attacks. In any case, all of this can be resolved with procedures and not by using an antivirus. Why introduce something dangerous into your system with an antivirus? Why? There's no point. Let me talk to you about email for a moment. Some of you will make some nasty comment that I'm just trying to sell you something, and I don't really care. So I mean, make all the comments you want. So I made a pretty good product, I thought, and you probably need to know about it. It's because very useful for all of you. So I've been running email on Braxmail now for how long has it been? A year and a half, I think, since I started Braxmail. And many of you had problems using Braxmail because it required you to use an email client, and you found it too difficult to install and so on, because Back in the old days, everyone had knowledge on how to do email clients and how to set that up, SMTP, POP3, IMAP, all that. Everybody knew that back in the days from the 80s. And then a new generation of people don't do that anymore because they use Gmail. So one of the first things I did was to solve that by using webmail. So now Braxmail is just accessed by web.braxmail.net. You log in, and that's it. You don't have to set anything up. It just works. It is just so simple now to get running. There's just not too many things happening. And the interface is very simple, and you don't need any clients. It works on any browser. And one of the neat things that I added to this was I added, for one, there are now 7 free domains. So you have the original domains, which was braxmail.net, plus some other ones, and then I added some new ones. I don't need to mention what the domains are publicly here, but if you use Braxmail as your email server, we have some very innocuous looking email addresses that domains that don't really say where it's from. So it doesn't indicate something like you're hiding or anything like that. It doesn't say Proton Mail. It doesn't say Tutanora, something really obvious that say you have something to hide. Our emails don't have any clue because it doesn't, most of the domains are pretty innocuous. It's like there's completely stealthy, no clue. Okay, there are no clue domains. But one of the things that I added was unlimited aliases. So if you have a base name, keep it short. Let's say it's Rob. Okay, so if you have a base name, let's say Rob at braxmail.net, and you said, can I have an alias to Rob at braxmail.net? And you can say Rob-123, Rob-ABC, Rob-XXX, Rob-Brax, Rob-whatever you want to say. So any on Braxmail, if you put a dash, you can put anything after it, and we just ignore what's after the dash, and all of your mail will arrive. So if you use your original name and then you put a dash and then whatever content, it will come to you. So you can hand somebody a unique email. You can have unlimited. You can basically create, potentially millions of emails if you can remember. But you don't have to remember because it'll arrive in the same inbox. So because of this and the fact that it's so easy to use now, people have really liked what I've done on Braxmail, and it's just been getting a lot of attention lately. So yeah, so Braxmail is $50 a year, and we've been running this for the last year and a half, pretty much flawless. And there's just been, there were there were some early issues when we were just growing so fast, like running out of space, stuff like that, and now it doesn't have that. It doesn't have that. It's humming like humming well. Everything is very good. So just like to say that, to announce that to you, that you can use Braxmail. It's $50 a year. It's going to give you a ton of email addresses to use, a ton, unlimited number, plus 7 domains. So you can really mix things up. Okay, you can really mix things up. Okay, so compared to Proton Mail, why do you need to compare to Proton Mail? There's the issue right there. Okay, first of all, our email does not have any metadata. It doesn't show anything. People think that you're using Proton Mail, that you're going to be encrypted and you're going to hide everything, and you don't even realize that the encryption in Proton Mail is only when you communicate with somebody in Proton Mail. Proton Mail to Proton Mail, which is also encrypted on Braxme if you're talking to somebody in the same domain. But When you're communicating to Gmail from Proton Mail, there is fucking no difference. It's just normal email. So Proton Mail, in spite of the fancy advertising, that's 99.9% of your emails is normal email. So basically, you're saying that your metadata on Proton Mail will be different? No, it's exactly the same thing. Okay, but your problem is now you're advertising that you're on Proton Mail. You're hiding something. So is Proton Mail an option? Sure, if you'd like to do that. So, but now with our unlimited aliases, our many obscure domains, I think we have a pretty good deal here. So, yeah, you basically are not stuck to protonmail.com. You have a ton of email, and nobody will know where it's coming from, and nobody will know what the domain is. It's not going to be obvious from the domain. So anyway, just letting you know that, because you're mentioning other email products, and yeah, just compare what we're providing for our price, and we don't even have any space limits. There's no storage limits. So yeah, I'm happy to grow the email. There's many of you now. There's over the last year and a half, a lot of you have been on Braxmail, and so I'm glad to see that expanding. So happy clients. So they're happy, then that must be positive. Many people have said many positive things lately. So thank you. Okay, so what else? What else are you asking here? Let me look at the comments. If a friend uses my home wireless and they have a virus, would my computer be at risk? Not necessarily. It depends on the virus. Probably not. Yeah, probably not. Because, attacking somebody on the same network is not how most viruses work. So for the common viruses, that's not usually the problem. But that's the least of your problem anyway. Let me tell you what the real problem is, Lauren P. Because this is not the obvious problem, and it's a big privacy problem. It's not a malware problem, but it's a privacy problem. And which is why you need a VPN. Which is why in my house, I run a Brax router where my entire traffic is routed through the VPN. So I have Brax router, which is one of our products, and then we route the entire network to the VPN, and then we exit from the VPN. So basically our home IP address is never revealed anywhere because all the routers are running through the VPN. Okay, so that's our way of protecting it. Nobody has to do anything to the machines. All they have to do is log into Brax router, connect to the Brax router that connects to the VPN, and then all the traffic goes to the VPN. What's the advantage of that? Well, here's the problem. If you don't do that, let's say you have your normal network and you have your normal IP address, and your friend borrows your Wi-Fi, or in my case, my sister loves doing that. She comes to my house, and then she starts going to Instagram and zucking Zuckbook. Okay, she just loves Instagram zucking Zuckbook. I've given up on my sister. It's everybody else in my family seems to be understanding of what I do and start to really think a little bit, not necessarily always, but they think a little bit about what I'm saying. But my sister is completely useless, and actually, just to show you kind of the stupid stuff I have to experience, she goes on Facebook. She goes on Signal, in our Signal group chat, because I'm not going to be found anywhere else. So I'm on Signal, and she puts a link to Zucking Zuckbook. So if you click on it, it goes to Zucking Zuckbook. It's like, Zuck. Okay, so you want to compromise all of us. You go to Signal, and then you compromise, in the same chat, you compromise it with Facebook. totally zucked up. Anyway, her thing is that she would come to my house, start, using her phone or her computer or whatever, and start accessing Instagram and Facebook and whatever other website and whatever apps on her phone is going to capture my IP address and my location, because she doesn't care about location, and it's going to record the IP address and location, and that, my friends, is going to be zucking sold. Let me repeat that. Any user of your network at your home that you lend your Wi-Fi to will almost always use their phone with location on and connect your IP address to the location, and that data will be sold. Okay, I did many videos on this, and where is it sold? It's sold in many places. There are many wholesale places that pay the apps to give them the location and IP address pair. Here.com, Skyhook Wireless, on and on and on. There's so many of these. Okay, now if you allow this to happen, then your IP address is now compromised, which means somebody can now look up and see that your IP address goes to a specific location. So now you will be revealed. Anything that has your IP address will reveal your exact address. So now it's just, IP addresses don't reveal any personal information. It's just, in the city, it's general. You're zucking, ignorant fool if you think that. It doesn't work like that, because they sell that IP address and location pair. Therefore, if you go to the supplier of the IP address location pair, you can find out the exact location of many IP addresses. But if you're using a VPN, what will happen? Let's say you're using a VPN or a Brax router like I am. If you're using a Brax router, what happens is that your family or friends using your network, let's say that, in my case, it's connected to Brax router, will get a IP address off the VPN server, whatever that happens to be, with your real location. Yeah, sure. We'll probably give the real location. But now it's not a pair. Why? Because many people are using the VPN. Therefore, potentially thousands of people will have different addresses, different locations attached to the IP address, which is elsewhere anyway. So let's say my server is in, one of my servers is in Fremont, California, where Tesla is. So if they get a location, it's not going to match because the IP address is in Fremont, and they're going to say, well, your location is in Compton, California. Doesn't match. So many of these companies will drop that and say that's invalid data. Okay, so they're not going to sell that. That's not going to be sold data because it's not going to make any sense. So that's why you use a VPN, especially at your house. I don't care if you use a VPN when you're traveling. It really doesn't matter. It's at your house that you need to defend, because you don't want to ever show up in these databases at here.com, Skyhook Wireless, with this location and IP address pair. You do not want that, because once you do that, your privacy is lost forever until you change your IP address. If that ever happens, you need to talk to your, DSL company and change your IP address. Now, this is not an issue with certain technologies. Strangely enough, you don't need a VPN when using Starlink. So when I'm using Starlink, I don't need a VPN. It doesn't matter. The reason is Starlink puts everyone, all the users that it captures in a large area, like a region or city, and funnels it through the satellite, right, to the Starlink satellite, and then it streams it down to the local server in the area, and And that's the IP address that shows, is that local server in the area. And even when you're connecting to the Starlink server, it doesn't pinpoint you, because that doesn't work like that. Starlink doesn't pinpoint. So you're basically pointing the satellite and sending the signal. They're receiving it, but it's not directional. I mean, the satellite is not directional. The direction is coming from you pointing your dish to Starlink, rather than the other way around. So there's no actual directional data going down. So the address that you use, the IP address that you use inside the Starlink network, is in IPv6, and it's actually dynamic. It keeps changing. For that reason, even if you don't use a VPN, nobody really knows what your IPv4 address is, because it doesn't matter, because you're sharing with thousands and thousands and thousands of people on the Starlink satellite at the same time. So for that reason, Starlink does not need a VPN. So over here I have two networks. For example, I have a Starlink network and a DSL network. The DSL network has to go through the Brax router, and we have I was just testing it, so I got myself Starlink. Starlink is not good for uploading. It's only good for downloads, so it's not the fastest. So I can't use it for live streaming. But it's it's a nice backup. If the network is down, there's always a way to use internet, and so I use it as a secondary internet. Kind of expensive, but yeah, it's okay for by business use. So so that is not subject to that kind of IP address location data pairing, because how do you track a location against the main server that trunks to the IPv4 internet on Starlink? There are going to be many thousands of you sharing that same server. So they're not going to go find. They're not going to find you. Okay, so you're okay. You're okay on Starlink. You're also okay on Cell. So if you're using LTE modems, stuff like that, that also cannot use a IP address and location data pair. So if my sister comes here and says, "Can I borrow your network?" I'll say, "Why not use your LTE or your 5G or whatever with your zucking new iPhone, whatever model?" My sister is very big on iPhones. Starlink is expensive, yes. So, yeah, Starlink is not cheap. I mean, DSL is cheaper. But, since my business relies on internet, if the internet ever goes down, then it shuts me down. So a little bit of redundancy doesn't doesn't hurt. Okay, so anyway, what I'm talking about here is just telling you, why certain things are risks and certain things are not risks. So the IP address pair from your DSL modem. So this is an issue if you have DSL. You need to protect that. Either put a VPN on every device, but since nobody's going to do that, use a Brax router. Okay? Yeah, I've made many videos talking about my sister. They're like, yeah, Christmas time, they're going to start buying things. Like my brother gave me, we had a exchange gifts thing. What do you call that? Where you randomly exchange gifts? It's just kind of what's the term? I forget the name of the game, but where you raffle the numbers and then you randomly choose a gift, right? And what did I win? What did I win for Christmas? What gift did I win for Christmas? A zucking Amazon Echo. Amazon Alexa Echo. That's what I won. It's like, zuck. This is a good target practice puck, because it's kind of like a target round. Yeah, perfect for rifle practice. Yeah, that's the only purpose. That's the only purpose of of an Amazon Alexa Echo. White elephant. Yes, there you go. Thank you, Kevin. White elephant. So yeah. So what about wide area network? What about the wide area network? I don't understand. What is that? What kind of question is that? Oh, wide area network is what we're talking about. It's the internet is the wide area network. I don't understand the questions. You should not enable IPv6 on your local network. You can, okay. At the device level, you should. This is not necessarily a choice now. If you're using a phone and you're connecting to cell, they're not going to disconnect IPv6. In fact, they only talk in IPv6. But you can block IPv6 at your router, which you should do. You should do that. So if you're using cell, it's going to be an IPv6 for sure. If you're using Starlink, it's going to be an IPv6 for sure. But do not use IPv6 on your router, because otherwise they can bypass the NAT protection and access devices directly, which can open you to hack. So it's such a bad thing. So on my router, I stopped that with not allowing IPv6 on my router. In fact, I use a Brax router. Brax router is the stopping point in any case, because Brax router only allows IPv4, and then it routes everything to the VPN. So IPv6 has no function in a Brax router. So yeah. So if you have a Brax router, then that would be the solution. I don't know if I have any more Brax routers. I think I may have sold them all now as far as Raspberry Pis. So you just have to buy your own Raspberry Pi, and I can sell you a case, and then you can build your own Brax router. So they're available now. I mean, you can buy, because they're coming up with a new Raspberry Pi. So the old Raspberry Pi is available. You can buy them now. So I may have run out of my supply, because many of you bought it. I don't know. I think I still have a couple here. Maybe I have to assemble it, but I may have a couple more. But you can buy Raspberry Pis now, and then make your own Brax router. Then you just get the chip. We send you the chip. You plug it in, and you're good to go. So I've not done a review on Mycroft, no, but why do you want Mycroft? So let's see. So Raspberry Pi 5 is coming out. I don't have one, so if I get one, then I have to go program the Brax router to that. I have to come up with a new version to work on Raspberry Pi 5. So at the moment, I don't have that. So when I'm able to get a Raspberry Pi 5, can I program it to do Brax router? Yes. Although, given the price difference, I really would imagine that using a NUC, an Intel NUC, is still a cheaper option. Okay, V has a question. What is, he never answered? Well, I mean, people are I can only answer a few questions. So what is V asking? We lose power. What's your question? Okay, you just distracted me there, but instead of wasting my time with a thing like that, just tell me the question again. You just ask it repeatedly. Then you're having me go search. Okay, I don't know if I need to do a Linode how-to series, because if you don't know how to set up a server, I'm not sure this is the channel to do that. I may have to make a separate channel to do that. Maybe not this channel. Is AMD a good chip? Yeah, actually it is. The performance on AMD chips, like the Ryzen, are, you know, extremely competitive with Intel. So, yeah, and often they're a little bit cheaper too. So for price performance, AMD is pretty good. Yeah. So yeah, I don't consider that. If it will work on Intel, it will work on AMD. So, any negatives of having a dedicated IP address? There is nothing positive with having a dedicated IP address. I mean, the whole point is to be dynamic, but my IP address is dynamic, and they've never changed my IP address in 21 fucking years. 21 years later, I still have the same IP address. Okay, so I'm running out of time here, so if we lose power, will Starlink work with our cell phone? Yeah, if you can power Starlink, let's say you have one of those. Jackery wants to sponsor me, but I can't think of a good topic for that. But I use a similar product to Jackery, but yeah. So if you have Starlink, you can plug it into a Jackery, and you can have internet. Yes. So and it will run for a long time because a Starlink doesn't use that much power. Okay. So yeah. So because it's independent, the router, everything is in the one plug. It's a single plug of power. It's very easy to do. You just take your Starlink, you plug it into your power, your your power battery, and it'll be good. Yeah. I could probably, my boat has battery power, so I could put Starlink on my boat. I don't need to, but because I have internet on my dock on my boat, so I don't need it. So I use it for here, and but in theory, then it will run on a battery. So it just one plug, so no problem at all. Yeah. You can also use an LTE modem. I'm considering selling a product that has to do with a kind of a secure Wi-Fi hotspot that doesn't reveal the, IMEI and IMSI. And I gotta test that, and it sounds like an interesting concept. And I'm discussing potentially reselling that once I know how it works. But the concept is very interesting if I get the technical issues for it. So anyway, by the way, yes, no Brax 3 phones, likely no Brax 3 in 2023. So, and because of the Chinese schedule, it's not likely that if you don't order it now, you're not going to get it before March. I told you there was a problem with Brax 3. So because of that, that's delayed. Now, if you're using Verizon anyway, you can't use Brax 3 at all. So use our Pixels. We got good stock on Pixels right now. We have a lot of I ran out of Pixels a week ago, and I got a big stock. So I have a lot of Pixels right now. So I'm covered and I'm building my inventory. So I have a lot of Pixels are great. So I've because I was having a problem with my Brax 3, so I stopped using the Brax 3, and now I'm using a Pixel. So this is a Pixel 5. So they're Pixel 6As and so on. So okay guys, so we're out of time. Thank you for watching.